Okay, welcome back. Today we're covering Afghanistan shrinkflation and a good reminder of maximum regret. A quick summary about the things that we're going to cover includes why you should be caring about Afghanistan, how does it really impact your life, federal issues coming to light because of Afghanistan and COVID, talking about the standard of living and inflation, and also regret minimization. So let's get started. So this is level 1, not going to make it. This should be very easy for you to understand as a total beginner. And this was published today, August 31st. So there's a lot of major news about Afghanistan, supply chains, and we'll be covering all of that today. So here's the Afghanistan issue. Situation's pretty bad. Taliban has taken over, US troops killed. You've probably all seen the news, so I don't even need to go about this. They posted this meme that you can read yourself if you're interested. So let's just talk about the implications of all of this. Implication number one is that now federal issues are going to be put in the burner. COVID and Afghanistan are the forefront of basically any government policy topics that are going to be discussed now and covered by the media. This means that you can expect minimal tax changes, if any tax changes at all. It'll probably be capital gains. Doesn't really affect people who have assets because they just don't sell. Implication number 2. Let's move on to the state level. California, New York, they are 2 states that have experienced a ton of brain drain and came out kind of like losers during the after effects of COVID, while Texas, where I'm currently at now, and Florida are absolute winners thanks to their low cost of living, extremely welcoming governments, and also low income taxes, to be very honest. So let's talk a little bit about that. If you live in California, New York, Bowtie and Bull's recommendation is that you leave. As someone who is in California for the summer, I'm very happy to be back in Texas. As someone who's also in New York earlier this year and will probably be going to New York City sometime later in a month or two, those are not places I currently want to live in, given that there is still COVID out there. Like, it shocks me that some people are still going to school, that elementary kids are going to school, and they could potentially bring viruses back home. That's insane to me. I can't believe her. Anyways, my opinion doesn't matter. Let's go to implication number 3. Implication number 3 is big Wi-Fi money premium. Basically, everything's online. It's, in their viewpoint, crazy that things that are tied to physical land and have restrictions in that sector are still valued at the amount that they're valued at. They highly recommend you have your own online business and or work a remote job. And they also talked about if there's other places you want to move to tax-free, there's Puerto Rico, Singapore, and Dubai. Best option for a US citizen is Puerto Rico. If you're young, like me, you shouldn't really be thinking about taxes that much. Instead, you should be thinking about building your skills and building your own career. They do offer a little bit of encouragement, is that if you want to build your own online career, you have about 3 years to figure out some sort of internet business. This is a healthy timeline, as their motto has been give up 3 and you'll be free. I honestly don't remember them saying that, but I trust them. Most who have followed this plan since we started writing in 2012 or so have successfully made it. All this disruption gives you time to become more liquid and mobile. Definitely agree. All my tech friends are just moving around all the time and having fun. Implication number 4. You probably know this with certainty, but for good measure, more green light to spend. It's really easy to justify spending on defense or anything else related to COVID-19 or Afghanistan. This is the part where the next few parts of this article are going to include a lot more numbers, so I'll be reading a lot more. In fact, the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill might go through if you throw in some emotional angle surrounding one of the 2 topics. However, the exact number isn't relevant. Eventually, they will be passing $4 trillion bills, plus spending bills. We're old enough to remember a $700 bailout in 2008, 2009 was complete blasphemy. And now we're in a multiple trillions as a normal occurrence. That's 5x the size in the infrastructure bill alone. this is scary. That's very scary. The fact that like more is going to happen. It's like just setting a precedent that this is normal government spending. Implication number 5, structural and generational changes are difficult to grasp. Basically, Bowtie Bill really recommends that you think about your wealth and the assets that you own, not necessarily the amount that you hold in US dollars. This means that if you have a lot of crypto assets, you think about it as in how much Bitcoin you have or how much ETH you have. And it's like 5 Bitcoin, if you do, also 15 ETH. Think about it in that manner instead of thinking about how much is it pegged to the US dollar currently. Also, what's interesting is that I have actually never heard of the term currency devaluation roadmaps. Triggered. Concluding remarks, we're not here to make any political commentary. We're not the greatest place in the world for any sort of emotional response to anything or emotional support. All we can say is how this will likely impact you. And since life is single player, you always put your emergency air mask on before you help others. So save yourself first. There's also a place where you can donate, but the conclusion is the government now has its hands tied with much more pressing matters. Therefore, you can assume big changes will be slower unless they are related to COVID or the Afghanistan issue. Start that internet business now so that you're mobile if more changes come down the pipe in 2 to 3 years. Okay, well, that's part 1, which is basically Afghanistan, COVID. Let's move on to the part 2, standard of living in the USA. The pressure is on. Inflation is persistent and it's going to bring upon more problems, and we're seeing it. Let's first start off with this exercise. I remember Bowtie Bill coming out with this tweet months back where they suggested that you buy all the products that you already use, rice, beans, toilet paper, in bulk, and you're just going to save so much more because the prices are going to increase anyways. Quantity is going to decrease in the prepackaged packaging, and also your paycheck is going to be worth less. And I thought, wow, that seems like a stupid small frugality tip. Now I really understand. I go to the grocery store and I'm like shocked by how much food, basic household essential items have doubled. Like I feel like my grocery bill every time is like 1.5x, if not 2x. And for me, as a single person, it's shocking to me, but it's not that big a deal. But it's definitely disturbing for people who have large families and has the grocery bill as one of the biggest parts of their budget. So we suggest you start taking pictures of all the products you buy. Companies will reduce the quantity by double-digit percentages and raise prices by 5% or so. This is a blanket simple formula. So instead of trying to fight this, we suggest planning ahead once again and buying items you can in bulk. Purchase a good chunk of frozen steak in bulk, buy things like beans, rice, lentils in bulk, and purchase other items that can be used over the course of months or even a year in bulk. I will also say another reason why I didn't take this advice is because I'm mobile, I don't have kids, single, and I travel. So buying stuff in bulk doesn't make sense because not only do I have to haul it back to my place, I need to get rid of it when I move or travel. So definitely recommend this if you're more stable and you have children. Tweet again, talking about increase in prices. Again, this is the last place to go for frugality advice. So let's parlay this concept into econ. You should certainly be planning ahead as well. Go through all the products you have that require basic materials and just order in advance. The shipping part you can't do much about unless you're a massive company, have complex hedges agreements. Instead, think about the high demand products you sell and just pay upfront for it so you can collect the juicy 30% additional operating profit in 12 months. Same playbook as 2020. I do not have an online business, so this does not apply to me, but they highly recommend all their followers to have one. So on my way. Let's go to part 3, regret minimization. Avoid selling too early. Okay, now we've talked about things that are happening on the macro level with Afghanistan, COVID, parlaying that into government spending, parlaying that into inflation, and the fact that all our products are getting much more expensive. Now we're going to talk about minimizing regrets during the stage and how you can take advantage of the situation. Not even take advantage, not let yourself be taken advantage of. So let's rewind and put these two items together. If we know the money printer go brr and assets go up, it means you want to be able to purchase perishable items up front and use excess US dollars to purchase the store value various crypto assets of different risk profiles. If you still monitor your net worth in US dollars, you will most likely sell too soon. And if you want to read about this psychological phenomenon, read the book When Money Dies. When a currency is being devalued or collapsing, everyone thinks they're getting rich. No one takes a step back and asks, does this make sense? I have comments to add, but I'm going to read a little bit more about what they're saying before I add my personal anecdotes. Does it make sense that restaurant companies are worth more or same as 2019, after they lost millions, billions over the course of 2 years? Does it make sense that prices are going up when wages haven't gone up in the past 12 months for the vast majority of the population, after they were forced out of business due to COVID-19? None of this makes logical sense. Don't even get us started on real estate prices in major cities that will unlikely ever be the same. What is the reason for this massive disparity here? It means the underlying economy is not healthy and the purchasing power of the unit of account is shrinking. It's quite clear. If the purchasing power is coming down and shifting to a new unit of account, this would line up with the prior two items. Remember, over the past 1.5 years, we've printed 40% of the entire US dollar supply. If your investment returns were below 40% and your net income didn't go up 40%, you fell behind. Hopefully this sinks in because we're still quite early. The vast majority are still trying to trade more US dollars. They also don't have the cash flows to continue trading forever. Most of them don't have jobs or have low income jobs, so they're forced to sell on the way up. Maximum regret is no, I missed it. There are hundreds of other opportunities every day. Maximum regret is selling your Bitcoin at 1,000 or ETH at 100, only to see it go up 30 to 50x in value. It's harder to rebuy as you have to admit to yourself that you were wrong. Yeah, I definitely feel that. If you literally just left your money in your 401k, you should have seen 24% returns in the past year without doing anything. It's just following the market, but the market is massively inflated with money. And so if you did see your net worth go up, the actual amount, like the actual numbers went up, but the value, your purchasing power, most likely did not go up. It just hopefully matched inflation. Really scary things. This is one of the only things that keeps me up at night. In short, start pricing your net worth in asset terms. If you don't believe in our worldview of the sovereign individual, at least peg your net worth to an asset. It could be as simple as the S&P 500, where you decide if you earn more money relative to the S&P 500, or if you gains more S&P net worth, you outperform the S&P 500. I hope this makes sense to other people. If it's a little confusing for people new to this channel or new to Bowtie, it means like whatever the trend of the S&P 500 is, if your portfolio did not outperform it, if your portfolio doesn't match it, you are in the negative. You are underperforming the market. You are not keeping up with inflation, and you should start measuring your net worth compared against like the rate that it is changing. This type of thinking will prevent maximum regret. You will focus more on what am I going to do with this money? Purchasing power. If I sell, then you will realize there is nothing else to buy. I remember in like 2019, I had an Uber driver who had a family home. I was in the Bay Area, and they had a family home in Palo Alto or Cupertino. It was worth $2.4 million. And they bought it for, like a few $100,000. And Uber driver, wife, security guard, husband, children aren't college educated. They have 3 or 4 kids, and their standard of living is not that high, even though they own a home that's like $2.4 million. They can't sell that home because then they'd have to move out, and then all their family is in the Bay Area. Their life is in the Bay Area. And I know some homeowners in this past year were very excited that their home prices were increasing and were looking to sell, but then they realized whatever they sold, they won't have a home anymore, and they'd have to buy another home at like the same inflated price. So, final note to visualize this: if you were in Zimbabwe during inflation, here's what you would see pegged to the wrong unit of account. you think you're getting rich until you realize that the unit of account is wrong. And this is the same chart below, purchased in US dollars. Look at that. And these both are charts from the Financial Times. Now you can ask yourself if the unit of account is wrong when we look at returns in stocks and real estate. Per usual, from both them and from myself, this is not investment or legal advice. Opinions, entertainment, both from Bold Pie Bolt and from myself, who's giving a summary of it. We're simply asking that you ask this question to yourself before pricing your gains in any particular currency, be it US dollars or otherwise. I would just say I'm really glad I read this. I think Bold Pie Bolt does an amazing job talking about macro trends that happen because of the news. You know, like, okay, Afghanistan happened, so how does that affect me? Okay, the increases in toilet paper and rice and restaurant prices are innocuous, but what does that actually mean, and what should I be preparing for and thinking about? So yeah, this was a great article. Highly recommend. Again, subscribe to them so that you can ask them questions and see these as soon as they come out. They deliver all the newsletters at the same time, whereas my videos are a couple of days behind, even though well opinionated. So yeah, click subscribe, follow if you want more updates from Bold Pie Bolt and my take on it. And I will see you in the next video, and we're going to get more people into crypto.